I
am in the system.
Yeah.
Charlie, and I was monitoring the Citi TV. Charlie, you said 21 days. Some wild advert I just saw on the Citi TV on the campaign thing.
No, the campaign adverts have improved. I think whoever is doing the adverts is doing a good job. Really interesting adverts indeed. Well, because you see, don't forget that your voters are now very young. Over 55% of your voters are aged between 18 and 35. So now you need a different kind of message. No, you need to.
Young people like Akutia.
No, what it means is you need to show and tell. It's not just tell, but also show. That's what's going on. Anyway, let's get into the headlines.
Okay, front page of the Daily Graphic, Bernard. Reckless parking. Articulated trucks create accident hotspots along Accra Kumasi Highway. Bernard, you should see the photo on the front page. It's an extensive report by Enoch Dafa from I'll give you details later. Name UDS after Rawlings. President repeats appeal. Ghana secures $3 million to boost digital skills, and audit board forwards DOM level travel report to committee.
All right, remind me to tell you about an articulated truck that I saw this morning later on. But on the front page of Ghanaian Times, police grab 40 suspected criminals in dawn swoops in Accra. Also, President proposes naming UDS after late former President Rawlings. And 2019-2020 WASSCE results. First batch of FSHS, that's free SHS, records best performance in mathematics, will intensify third nationwide disinfection in COVID-19 fight, and no event to mark 1 week of former President Rawlings' death. And this comes from the office of former President Rawlings.
I take you to the front page of the Herald newspaper, Bernard. Country shifting from doomsot to doomcra as government's $1 billion indebtedness leaves power producers with shutdown. J.J. Rawlings demanded cremation with his ashes scattered in Achimota Forest, according to the paper. Strange development in Opuni trial. Police still collecting evidence from witnesses, and vote buying taints National House of Chiefs election.
The Chronicle. Hypocritical NDC fights government over JJ's funeral. Battle over where to bury Rawlings, and Akufo-Addo's graduates excel in WASSCE.
Front page of the New Publisher newspaper. I am not sick. Nana Kunedu denies being hospitalized. NDC on warpath over Rawlings' death. Nunu Mensah pisses in.
The New Crusading Guide, 2019-2020 free SHS cohorts. 60% made aggregate passes of A1 to C6. Trust the EC for free and fair process, Catholic Bishops' Conference urges Ghanaians. OT region benefits from third phase of markets disinfection, and tension mounts over installation of another Accra Zabrama chief.
Front page of the Daily Guide newspaper also goes with a Rawlings thing, Bernard. Chaos in NDC over Rawlings' funeral. JJ Book of Condolence opens. Akufo-Addo SHS graduates score high, according to the paper, and Catholic bishops laud EC efforts.
The Finder. Free SHS graduates excel in WASSCE despite challenges imposed by COVID-19. Business Development Ministry showcases success story, and Cleveland Tove acquires NDK Capital Limited.
Front page of the Daily Statesman. Free SHS records big success. First cohort of students makes best WASSCE results in recent times. Left alone under attacks by Kevin Taylor. Mahama NDC now in crocodile tears for coward modern day Judas Rawlings, and this is in quote. Data speaks. Comparative analysis of WASSCE results comes with a photo of the education minister on the front page of the paper.
All right, much of the front page of the Daily Post is taken up with images of the vigil held in honor of President Rawlings. NDC holds vigil to honor Rawlings. Also, Opoku Ajiman has been a decent politician so far. Very refreshing, says Ajina Sare. And John Mahama leads NDC to console Mrs. Rawlings and her children.
Finally, from me, Bernard, the front page of the BNFT. Industrial salt export to add $1 billion to NTEs in a decade. Current earnings only around $5 million. 80% of businesses expect recovery by June 2021. That is according to a report by the AGI. Back to you, Bernard.
Economy Times, 18 state-owned enterprises to enlist on Ghana Stock Exchange. And HAPA deal, CSOs, minority and others deserve national commendation. Also, Bank of Ghana issues new corporate governance guidelines for RCBs, that's rural and community banks.
Moving online, Rawlings' death must unite us, bring healing to Ghana. This is John Mahama. Meanwhile, Rawlings made me who I am today. I don't regret following him. This is Alban Bagbing. Special prosecutors update on allegations of corruption against SAC PPA bosses is the full text. And let's win 2020 to honor Rawlings. Asirun Ketia to NDC members. Still on Rawlings. Rawlings will go down as one of Ghana's greatest leaders. This is Obed Yao Asamoah. In other stories, high PCR test costs at KIA a hindrance to African integration. This is AFDB Secretary General. And 2020 WASI examination results comparisons are unhealthy. This is Kabonu of Nagrat. If you go to citybusinessnews.com, Cleveland Tove acquire NDK Capital. Also, Special Innovator turns Hair Weeks into bricks. Ghana signs MOU to host 2021 annual meeting of AFDB Group. And cane weavers lament difficulty in accessing raw materials. If you go to myjournalline.com, people involved in Rawlings era should write their memoir. Professor Sutherland Addy. Also, no sale of liquor 500 meters from polling station. Dr. Abdul Basit Aziz Bamba or Dr. Aziz Basit. Other stories, no 1 week observation for Rawlings, and I resigned due to our differences. Former Trade Minister and Rawlings, Emma Mitchell. If you go to Star News, let's win December Fools for Rawlings. Actually, Ketia charges NDC. Also, NPC Executive Director is being undermined. Concerned board members. And I will beat Agaga with distinction. Busa North MPP parliamentary candidate. Interesting. GNA is leading with Rawlings as well. JJ Rawlings, the tribute, and Ghana to benefit from data transformation centers initiative. If I take you globally, Boris Johnson is self-isolating as critical reset begins. New curbs as US COVID-19 cases surpass 11 million. That's what BBC is reporting. And they are also saying that major COVID vaccine trial starts in the UK. We're keeping an eye on that as well. And then the New York Times lead story. Guess what it is? When a leader just won't go. When a leader just won't go.
My man is just troubling in Yankee.
When a leader just won't go.
This morning, his fingers have been busy.
Tweeting.
He's been tweeting.
All right, so let's start with some of the latest on the Rawlings story.
Okay, let me start from the NDC side because they've been busy, and then we'll get to the state side of Rawlings. So I'll take you to page 6 of the new publisher paper. NDC on warpath. The leadership of the opposition NDC are seething with anger for what it describes as moves by President Danko Akufo-Addo to hijack the burial activities of late former President Jerry John Rawlings. According to the party scribe, Johnson Esiedu Nketia, the party will not be treated as a guest when it comes to the funeral arrangement of his founder. And a few quotes attributed to him. Everything about this funeral so far depicts an attempt by an opponent to hijack the funeral of the founding father of our political party. And we don't think the funeral of our party founder ought to be organized somewhere, and we get invited.
There's a lot of Rawlings stories.
Lots of Rawlings
Let's
stories.
just run through them plenty.
Let's go to the center spread of the Ghanaian Times. You've got President proposes naming UDS after former President Rawlings, and no event to mark 1 week of former President Rawlings' death. So regarding naming the University of Development Studies after him, the late President Rawlings single-handedly established UDS against all difficulties at the time. And so the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, who was speaking at the 21st congregation of UDS in Tamale yesterday, stated that although President Rawlings was not in support of naming the university after him, it would be appropriate to honor him with it. He said he respectfully declined the honor and offer because of his principle not to have national monuments and facilities named after him. Notwithstanding these sentiments, and with all due respect to him, it is my strong belief that such an honor should be accorded him. That's the president speaking. And now many people have commented on that and the fact that I know Asiedu Nketia has as well. But with regard to no event to mark 1 week of President Rawlings' death, the office of former President Jerry John Rawlings says there will be no 1 week event to mark his death. The statement was signed and issued last Saturday by Kobna Ando Amakwa, who is in charge of the Communications Directorate of the office. He says all flyers and other information announcing such a ceremony are wrong and should be ignored. There will be no 1 week ceremony, and they dismissed rumors again that the former First Lady was also hospitalized.
Still on Rawlings.
Still on Rawlings. If you go to page 3 of the Herald newspaper, the headline says J.J. Rawlings demanded cremation, and this is they are looking at an interview he granted to the editorial board of Achimota School magazine in 2016, and according to the interview, he said that since I love Achimota Forest, I am looking forward to being cremated and my ashes brought to the forest and used to plant a few trees. He said when asked what he missed most about the school.
Now, there's something else on Nana Kunedu in the this paper.
The publisher.
Yes, just
I am
give us
not
that.
sick.
Yes.
Nana Kunedu denies being hospitalized. Now, that came as part of a statement that was issued by the office of former President Rawlings. The general public is informed that Mrs. Nana Kunedu Agyeman Rawlings is well and has not been admitted to any hospital. She was present when President Kufuor and former President Mahama called on the family on Friday, November 13.
Let me give you a few more handles, headlines. Rawlings' death must unite us and bring healing. This is Mahama, and he was speaking at the vigil yesterday. And the story says, flag bearer of the NDC and former President John Mahama says the death of ex-President Rawlings should help unite the country. According to him, Rawlings made significant contributions to the country's development, and that impact cannot be ignored. He was speaking at a vigil held in honor of the former president, and he says, Rawlings was not perfect, neither are we perfect. Having led this country for 19 years, longer than any past leader has and ever will, his impact on where our country has come from and where it is headed cannot be understated. Let's make his death bring us together. Then let me give you a couple of quick tributes. Rawlings would go down as one of Ghana's greatest leaders, Obeda Samoa, a former Attorney General and Foreign Minister, Obeda Samoa, who I'm inserting in parentheses, who eventually fell out with Rawlings, has stated that the late ex-president will go down in history as one of Ghana's greatest leaders. According to him, Rawlings brought a lot of new elements into Ghana's leadership. Then there are other things. Johnson Asidun Ketia says NDC must use the Rawlings' death to power them to win the vote. This is still from yesterday's event. General Secretary of Opposition NDC, General Mosquito, is urging supporters of the NDC to hold dearly the principles of the June 4 revolution, which is associated with the former president. He says saying true to these principles will help them honor the man's memory.
Right, and then on the Daily Post, the front page has the NDC holds vigil to honor Rawlings. Many images there. We've got Kimathi and Zaneto, two of President Rawlings' children, pictured there. And on the back page, you've got Mahama leads NDC to console the Rawlingses, and then bigwigs of the NDC, including former President Mahama, the current vice presidential candidate Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, Samuel Fosuampofo, etc. So you can pick up the post.
Okay, let's get to the other stories. Godfrey, I think there's a Wasi story.
Yes, there's a lot of
Plenty.
Wasi. So
A lot of
I can
Wasi
give you
stories.
Wasi from the Daily Graphic. Then there are other angles on the political side, depending on which paper you're looking at. So I'm giving you the Daily Graphic first. Page 61, Wasi performance best since 2015. Analysis of this year's performance of the West African Senior School Certificate Examination candidates reveals that the average performance of the candidate is the best when compared with Wasi results within the past 6 years, with all 4 course subjects recording about 50% pass marks. This year's performances in mathematics and English language are the highest, recording 65 and 57% respectively. Social studies and integrated science recorded 64 and 52% respectively. The checks further indicated.
Right, and the Chronicle also carries the same story. Akufo-Addo's graduates excel in Wasi. It also goes on to say that the 2020 entry figure was made up of 49.9% male students and 50.1% female students. So the females had a bit of an edge there.
The great overtaking.
Well, you see, but then it declines as we go further in education, which is what we need to look at. Okay, a total of 3,343 of the candidates who registered were absent from the exams. 2,383 candidates have had their results cancelled for engaging in collusion or bringing foreign materials into the examination hall or tearing parts of their question papers to solicit assistance. And then 480 candidates have had their entire results cancelled for the offence of bringing mobile phones to the examination hall. Also, 384 candidates have had their results withheld pending the conclusion of investigation into various cases of exam malpractice. 122 schools have had the scripts of their candidates in certain subjects under scrutiny as well.
Let me give you a quick reaction to this. If you go to citinewsroom.com, Wasi results comparison and healthy Kabonu story by Jonas Nyabo says the president of Nagrat in Jokabanu has expressed his quiet over debates around examination results comparison following the release of this year's Wasi results. According to him, such unhealthy development contribute partly to the rising incidence of examination malpractice in the country. It told Citi News it's become an obsession that is based on the false assumption that persons who obtain excellent grades in examinations are necessarily better students academically. Some of us have difficulty with this kind of comparison that because someone makes an A this year, it means that he or she is better than someone who made a C last year or 2 years ago. So you don't make that comparison. You are dealing with human beings. You are not dealing with inanimate objects that are static under certain conditions, he said. And he was commenting on the basis of all the social media in particular, discussions around WASI results and who should take credit for what.
Okay, Bernard, let me take you to the Dumso Dumkra
Yes,
conversation.
please. Yes, please.
I'll take the lead from the Daily Graphic, page 32. Settle debt to avoid withdrawal of services. Power producers. Independent power producers have entreated the government to pay 80% of the $1 billion owed them. In a notice to the Ghana Grid Company and the ECG, the Chamber of Independent Power Producers, Distributors and Bulk Consumers expressed its resolve to withdraw its services if payment was not made soon. Even though the notice issued on November 12 with received stamps of the ECG and Gridco did not give a specific date on which the Chamber would cut off services, it said the CCRs of the IPPs would communicate with Gridco's control center system on when it would delink if payment was not made.
Wow, this came last week. Then there's a story about Dumkra somewhere.
Yes, that story is in the Herald. Country shifting from Dumso to Dumkra. And it says that various IPPs, that's independent power producers, have threatened they.
So it's the same story.
Yeah, the same story basically.
That if they don't pay, they would withdraw.
Is that why some of us didn't have power yesterday?
Well.
Yeah, that was quite, the heat was intense. Anyway, okay, can we talk about COVID, which
Yes,
is
please.
still with us in a
Yes,
big
please.
way? All right.
Yes, please.
So disinfection exercises taking place in different areas. So we've got the Bolga MCE speaking, and OT region also benefiting from market disinfection. So we'll go to the Ghanaian Times first. The Bolgatanga Municipal Chief Executive, Mr. Joseph Atura, has assured that efforts will be redoubled to prevent a second wave of COVID-19 infection in the country. This will mean collaborating with the Ministry of Health to ensure that the various entities in the municipality have health personnel who will be taking the temperatures of people coming into the municipality. He says additionally, they will intensify education on the need for residents to observe COVID-19 preventive measures. If we go to the OT region, markets, lorry parks, toilet facilities, and other public places in the OT region have benefited from the third phase of the ongoing market disinfection. This is part of measures adopted by the central government through the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources and its partner Zoomlion to contain the continuous spread of COVID-19.
Speaking of COVID, coronavirus kills 10 Kenyan doctors in new surge. This is citinewsroom.com. Kenya's Doctors Union has issued a 21-day strike notice to the government of losing 10 members to the coronavirus in the last 4 days. The doctors accuse the government of exposing them to COVID-19. 4 doctors died last Friday alone, although it's unclear if they had contact with coronavirus patients. The union's Secretary General Mwachonda Chibanzi said they would not call off the strike until all their demands were met. Now, globally as well, COVID is doing interesting things. There are new curbs in the U.S. as COVID cases surpass 11 million in that country. That story came an hour ago. It says Michigan and Washington are the latest U.S. states to bring in strict measures to try and curb the spread of COVID-19. High schools and colleges are to halt on-site teaching, and restaurants are prohibited from offering indoor dining in Michigan from Wednesday. Then in the United Kingdom, that country's prime minister has been asked to self-isolate as a week of policy announcements begin. Boris Johnson is beginning his first working day in self-isolation in Downing Street after meeting an MP who later tested positive for COVID-19. The Prime Minister said he was pinged by the NHS test and trace on Sunday, pinged, I believe, and told to self-isolate, but remains well. Let's come back to Ghana. There's a couple of things on the PCR testing, which we have on citinewsroom.com, and it's really the Secretary General of the AFDB who says the high PCR test cost at KIA is a hindrance to African integration. Now, this is Professor Vincent Nyamihele. He's called on government to review the $150 charge on COVID-19 testing at KIA. Now, this has to cause by other stakeholders who have described the charge as exorbitant.
It is.
Despite comparisons to cheaper tests in other countries and calls for reduction in Ghana, a Deputy Health Minister Okoboy has defended the $150 charge at the Kotoka International Airport, saying even though they are cheaper ones, they are not able to point out those who are active within the virus. In a response to a question by Citi Business News at the signing ceremony of the MOU between Ghana and AFDB for hosting the annual meetings of AFDB Group from May 24 to 28 next year, Secretary General of the Union, Professor Vincent Nyamihele, said the charge is exorbitant, is a hindrance to the good goal of free movement of goods and people on the continent. And then he also then gives some other information.
This is just expensive.
They should reduce it. Yes.
It's ridiculously expensive.
Yes.
Look, I did 3 COVID tests.
In which countries?
You don't worry.
And how much did it cost?
Charlie Aloski. Before, that was a week ago. Charlie Aloski, this test was the most expensive test I took.
Okay.
A lot of people are saying that. All right.
This $150 test, Charlie.
It's not easy.
The World Bank extends COVID-19 support to Ghana with $130 million.
Okay.
They've extended this support as part of the COVID-19 Emergency Preparedness and Response Project. The country director, Pierre Laporte, noted that the fund will serve as an additional credit facility from the International Development Association intended for the health sector in curbing a revival of the coronavirus pandemic. He said the project will strengthen the government of Ghana's efforts to prevent and contain the virus and to safely revive socioeconomic activities in the country, and says the project will also support preparations for future COVID-19 vaccine deployment.
Okay.
Yeah, both the World Bank Group and other development partners' investments in disease control and surveillance and citizen engagement is part of this. And look at this. The statement indicates that with the additional financing, this $130 million US, that the IDA has given Ghana over $1 billion in 2020.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
All right.
That's a lot of
Then
money.
people should also check page 6 of the Daily Statesman. 13,000 businesses brave COVID-19 odds. They have some interesting information from the
13,000
the second
businesses.
round of the business tracker survey by the Ghana Statistical Service. And also, just to wrap up internationally, Bernard, problems in East Africa, Ethiopia and the
Yeah, so
Tigray
I don't know what's going on
situation.
there. It's like, is there a civil war or
Yeah.
something?
Well, they are nearing that side. We need to take
Tigray is between Eritrea and Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, yes.
And it
So-
looks like the place has become very
Yeah,
resty.
so we'll keep an eye on that. And last headline, your main man says Biden won because election was rigged.
Ah.
Yeah, as
That's
usual.
it. He's hammering that point home.
But at least it's admitted that the man won now.
You see,
That's progress.
Reluctantly.
All right, thank you, Kokui. Thank you, Godfred. Coming up next is the City Business News.
On every street, in every town, and all across Ghana, everyone has goals. What's your goal?
I want to expand my business in the next year.
I want to own my own house in 5 years.